What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Another episode of JohnnyVTV Live. Today we did it on Wednesday. We had some scheduling conflicts yesterday, but as always, join me, my guy Nick Durst. What's up, kid?
What's going on, Johnny? Lot going on right now. We had to do an early show because basically half the teams in the MLB are playing day games right now. We got home runs all over the place right now. We got pitchers getting rocked. Snell getting shelled. It's just crazy. Another Ohtani home run, another Tatis home run. Can't keep up with all this baseball action.
No, absolutely. We're missing our boy Kyle Donnelly. He had another obligation, so we miss our boy over there. But you know, we got a big show today, dude. We got a lot to talk about. So let's lead it off. Unfortunately, and this happened within like a 24, 48-hour period. It's honestly so bizarre and very unfortunate all at the same time. So there's been a lot of big injuries in baseball, like I said, in the last few days, week or so. First of all, as position players, you got Cody Bellinger putting on the shelf real quick. They're hoping it's not too long. Nick Madrigal tore his hamstring last week trying to leg out a ground ball. That is crazy. He tore his hamstring. Absolutely terrible. Done for the season. Nick Madrigal was an intricate, underrated piece for the Chicago White Sox. I mean, they just keep getting hammered with injuries to their star players. Madrigal is done. Honestly, one of the best two-strike hitters in baseball. Hardly ever strikes out. It's like Tony Gwynn type of status. And then even worse, man, you look over yesterday or the other day, Tyler Glasnow wasn't feeling right. I was watching the game. I saw him shaking his hand a little bit. I was hoping it was like some cramps, a little bit of inflammation, nothing crazy. Comes out of the game. They do the correct thing, pull him, get the MRI, partial tear in his UCL, forearm strain, real bad. Hopefully he doesn't require Tommy John surgery, but you never know. So prayers up for TG. Max Scherzer came out weird on, I think it was Friday night against the Giants. He comes out after 12 pitches, something with his groin, trying to stretch it out and just knew it wasn't right. He has a quick stint to the DL, and they're hoping to get him back after maybe a missed start or two. And lastly, Shane Bieber. This would explain why Bieber has not been himself. The velocity's been down. He's been missing on his strikeouts. His shoulder had to go to the DL, get a quick little trip in, maybe rest it up. This might explain a lot. Hopefully when he comes back, he's going to be his typical automatic ace self. Nick, what are we thinking here, man? This isn't good. A lot of these injuries, especially at one time. And not to mention, this all coincides kind of with the time when the MLB said no more using this stuff. What are we relating that to?
Yeah, I think it's just a coincidence as far as the timing goes. To me, I think it's really coming down to last season. Last year, the guys played 60 games. Now we're already at the 60-game mark, and they're breaking down. So their bodies, they're saying the same thing in the NBA. Every single big-time all-star is getting hurt here in the playoffs, whether it's Harden or Kawhi Leonard, Durant, whoever it happens to be, they're all getting hurt. And I think it's just because the stamina isn't there or their bodies haven't recuperated. We've had Strasburg's been out a lot of this year. He's a big name. Conforto, McNeil with the Mets, they've been out. Carrasco's been out. So there's just a lot of injuries, and it's a real shame. The Yankees have had a bunch of injuries, but they always have injuries. Something's got to give here. There's got to be some sort of sports scientist who come in here, whether it's something medically wrong with these people, their strength and conditioning, something's not right. To me, I would say maybe these players need to lay off the weights a little bit. Maybe that's impacting them a little too much. They're hitting the gym too hard. Syndergaard was so jacked up last year in spring training. He was doing all these exercises and his arm fell apart. And now he's going to be out for last season and this season. Let's go back to the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. Guys never got hurt. They played all the time. They were not babied, the pitchers. They were throwing 140, 150 pitches a night, and there was no issue. Now it's just a completely different game. Everyone's throwing 100 miles per hour. They can only pitch 10 pitches a night. You got to get them out of there. And there's all these specialized people, and people come up and when I grew up as a kid, you grew up as a kid. I wasn't just playing baseball. I'm playing basketball and soccer, football, whatever. I'm playing everything. Now they're baseball players. They're probably playing baseball every day since the age of like 10. So maybe that impacts things. I don't know. We know all these other athletes that used to play multiple sports growing up, and they were just fine. So there's a lot of things there. But what Glasnow said is very interesting as far as the pitcher injuries are concerned.
It's funny, actually, you mentioned about kids playing one sport growing up. And so 5 years ago when I was a senior in college, I was a volunteer for the Big East. And, the basketball tournament at the Garden, it was great. It was one of the coolest sports moments that I've ever been a part of. And so I actually exchanged contact information and met Kerry Kittles from the Nets. Great guy. And I was listening to him talk to a bunch of people, and I was like in like a circle. It's probably like 10 people. I was in there listening to him. And he said he placed so much importance on people. Just because you're focused on one sport, that doesn't mean you should be playing only one sport. It's not good. You burn yourself out. It's too much on your body just to completely use muscles time after time after time after time. And you're only a kid, so you're not even getting to the high school, the college, minor league level, pro level, whatever you're playing. Like, you're not even there. But by the time you get there, your body's so overworked and worn out that just the wear and tear. So he stressed the importance of playing multiple sports growing up and kind of, mentally give yourself a break, but prevent physical burnout as well. But in terms of Tyler Glasnow, dude, I think he's got a point. And I'll tell you why. Like, Tyler Glasnow's not a complainer. He doesn't ever, you never hear anything about him in a negative way. He's one of the best young arms in the game. He's great for the game of baseball. He's a key member of the Tampa Bay Rays. And the reason I think he has a valid point, focus on the one big thing he said. You have us coming out here. We've already thrown 80-something innings. Now, all of a sudden, you're just going to change it with no notice. Like, if you're going to do something that drastic, do it either at the end of the season, so we can't do it next year and use any type of substance, or you should have done it before the season started. Now, I agree with him because guys are used to pitching with this. Like, listen, I'm not a big league pitcher. You're not a big league pitcher. We don't have the capability to be throwing 100-mile-an-hour fastballs and then have like a power slider, power curveball the way he does. And he's just one guy to name a few. Like, even a Trevor Bauer, Carlos Rodon, like, they're coming to his defense. It's not just the fact that you can't use this. People don't understand this. You've been doing this for so long, and listen, let's call it what it is. Most of these pitchers use it, and it's not bad, dude. Most of these professional pitchers use it. It's not a bad thing. The problem is like he said, you're coming in doing this, you're pitching a certain way with whatever to grip the ball a little bit better. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you can't use it anymore. That's the thing. You're just changing it drastically like that, and you're handing out 10-game suspension. Meanwhile, like, batters could use batting gloves in pine tar, or at least were. Do they take batting gloves away from hitters? Because guess what? You've put your hands in those batting gloves before. You could feel how strong the grip is when you get it. Like, that's where I do agree with him. I think it's absurd, and I don't like the drastic change. It's all about optics. Rob Manfred, man, he just drops the ball time after time. He's willing to suspend a pitcher 10 games for doing something that's been widely renowned in the game for a long time by most pitchers, and it's not even seen as a form of cheating.
My favorite part of the rule is that if the pitcher gets suspended, the player can't replace him on the roster. I like that. Yeah,
dude, it's absurd. And then, by the way, you're not going to do anything about the Astros. The Astros get off scot-free. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's just such a disconnect. Like, fine, you want to move away from using this stuff, whatever. That's a subjective, opinionated thing. I've seen people be like, "Oh, you don't need it." Like, they're professional pitchers, they're cheating, or guys who I grew up with, I'm friends with, that I still talk to, that have played high school, college, and professional baseball that use it. I have a kid that I'm friends with who's in the minor league system, and says, "Dude, everybody uses this stuff. It's not a big deal."
Is your friend an Olympian?
He's not. Not him.
Definitely.
My friends in college who pitch in college are like, dude, like everybody uses it. It's not a big deal. It's like a little something. Nobody's making this a big thing. But like I said, subjectively speaking, or in terms of people's subjective opinions, fine. It doesn't matter whether you agree with it or not. What should not be happening is what Glasnow said. Don't do this in the middle of a season. Don't do it. Wait till after the season if you want to do it like that. Fine. But just don't be making a drastic change because you're a bad commissioner and you just want to worry about how it looks to the game when it doesn't. Nobody even really cares. And the only people that care are people who have never played the game ever.
How do you ban sunblock from day games? Like they got to be protected somehow. I mean, if I've been outside for a few hours and if you get too much sun, it's bad news. So why to say you're going to ban sunblock from players at a day game just to avoid doctoring the baseball? It's a little tough, and I think eventually we're going to see some sort of complaints come out of that. But I understand, like, there's no reason to be wearing sunblock when you're playing a Tropicana field. Like, you're indoors, so that's bullshit. So I don't have an issue with the fact that the league wants to crack down on this, but the timing's a little off to do it in the middle of the season. And, we've seen some pitchers already be impacted by this because they've gone out. They probably shot worse. What do you think? Should we raise in some eyebrows here at Blake Snell, Johnny? I mean, the guy has not been good the last few starts.
Dude, he's been brutal this year, man. He's getting tagged today. Like he's had very few starts that you could sit there and say, oh yeah, he was worth a big free agent tag price via trade from Tampa Bay. He's not been good. I don't know what it is. He's getting shelled by a team like the Rockies. It's not like the Rockies are a step up from the Yankees or the Red Sox.
He played the Mets last time.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't know what it is, man. Something might be off with him. I mean, he's been like this though, so it's not like he just started sucking lately. Like he's been rough pretty much the entire season. That's what that's kind of like a weird thing. I'm not sure what to make of it. It's just. The guy was a Cy Young winner a few years ago. I wouldn't go far.
It's got to pitch to one hitter in the World Series before getting pulled last year.
Yeah, I don't get it, man. Maybe a change of scenery. Maybe like there's little things that we're not watching. Like perhaps the pitching coach in San Diego is trying to change his mechanics a little bit, or trying to tweak certain things. Maybe it's the ball. And a lot of people are complaining about the baseball, that they changed it up again. Like I feel like the MLB's changed the baseball up probably 3 times in the last 5 years, 6 years. So maybe that's it. Like that's what even Glasnow said. He goes, listen, like you guys changed the baseball again. So like you're just starting to get used to the juice baseballs. Now I think what this is doing is like I think it's something different with the seams. So you can't get as good of a handle on the seams. So they keep doing that. Maybe that factors into Blake Snell.
So you mentioned the balls and everything, and obviously spider attack and sticky substances, and it's a big deal. What do you think about what Pete Alonso said? He said this is all a ploy by MLB to impact the collective bargaining agreement. What I get from that is that there's not going to be a season next year, and if there is, it's going to be very short, which is going to suck. And they're on opposite sides of things, and maybe there is some truth to that, as well as former players like Cody Decker who've agreed to that. And basically what Alonso said is, when there's a lot of good offensive free agents coming up, they impact the ball, so it's pro pitchers and makes their stats look bad. When it's a lot of pitchers in free agency, they're going to impact the ball, so there's a lot of home runs, so the pitchers don't get paid as much. So he thinks there's a conspiracy theory there between to impact the union based on the owners. And, if that is proved to be true, that could be very problematic here.
All right, well, let's call it what it is. Anything that's involving billions of dollars like the MLB is, nothing should surprise you. At the end of the day, they're a business and they're going to try and do whatever they can. Listen, they've had trouble marketing the game for years. For years, they've been trying to get MLB because NFL and NBA People would rather watch that. They have a tough time of getting kids playing the game of baseball. They haven't marketed it well. They haven't taken advantage of their superstars like a Mike Trout. I mean, listen, there's a chance a guy like Trout doesn't want to be marketed as like a LeBron James was for the NBA. But nonetheless, like now they're trying this new initiative, like let the kids play, like a guy like Timmy Anderson or Tatis or Acuna or Vladdy Jr., like those guys like that. I think they're having trouble getting this game into popularity. So they're trying to do whatever they can. And unfortunately, in that regard, they're in such a desperate and pathetic attempt to market the game and drive more revenue and more audience and popularity and all this. They're desecrating the gameplay itself. So they're trying to appeal to people that don't really care about the game while they're destroying the game that diehard fans watch, and it's just becoming unwatchable. And, you know, I don't blame Pete Alonso. Like, he's a hitter and he's saying he doesn't care about it. And I got to tell you, I don't think that there's ever going to be a lockout. There's too much money at stake. They won't let it happen. The NFL didn't let it happen. The MLB didn't let it happen. Like, it's not going to happen. I'd be so shocked if there was no season next year. The amount of money you're going to lose is an exorbitant amount of money. Owners, players, the league, everything, dude. It's just it's gigantic. Like the cities that host these teams that rely on that revenue. Like look at a city like, I don't know, St. Louis or San Francisco or San Diego or Texas with the Rangers. Like a lot of these teams like rely on that. Like you don't think these places probably get their cut? Like you're paying taxes every year. So I'd have to think that there's no way it doesn't happen. They don't have a season. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a season, but they're going to be kind of real close or it's going to be delayed. And I think it's just because they're so far apart on many topics. And the main topic is going to be the players want to be able to get to free agency earlier. Whereas the owners, as you seen with Chris Bryant, they manipulate things. They'll let you sit in the minor leagues for an extra 2 weeks to get an extra year of control. And that's just where the disconnect is. And right now, if you're not hitting the free agent market early in age, there's money's not there. You're not getting paid those big, massive contracts as you used to back in the day.
Yeah, listen, I totally understand it. It's a fair point. I just think, you know, I understand it's a business and inflation and everything and the salary cap and whatever. But I mean, big money is ruining the game. I think. I mean, it's not going to change. I don't expect it to change. But let's call it what it is. Look at a team like the Rays, for example. The Rays don't spend any money. Like Tyler Glasnow, as valuable as he is, like, you know how I feel about him. I picked him as my AL Cy Young winner at the beginning of the season. He's just a stud. Like, injuries were his biggest thing. But guess what, dude? Like, the Rays could bring somebody up and replace some of Glasnow's production. Like, it's going to be hard to replace a player
keep
like
replacing
that.
Guys. I mean, look, they trade their starting shortstop, Willie Adames.
Like, it's nothing. Like, they don't even care.
Hey, look, they did a great job. They got rid of Blake Snell, right?
Yeah, I mean, who knows if he's going to have his struggles out there, but listen, a team like Tampa doesn't spend money. Like, you see how they play the game. Then you look at a team like the Yankees, whose payroll is just one of the highest in the league, and they're 8 games behind said Rays.
Love it.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, big money, it ruins it. Like, look at a Frankie Lindor, 13, 14 years, $350 million contract. And he's barely had his moments this year where he's done okay. Like, you look at his overall season, he's been pretty terrible. Exactly. So, like, the big money to me is ruining the game. Like, don't get me wrong, I want to see these guys. Like,
do you think there should be a salary cap in baseball?
You know what, man? I do. I think the money's ridiculous. I actually do. I think the money is so ridiculous. And, like, even in the NFL's got a salary cap, but these guys are getting money too. Like, you're giving quarterbacks $45 million a year. Like, look at Patrick Mahomes. Like, as great of a player as he is, like, dude, nobody's worth that money. I didn't think Mike Trout was worth $434 million. And, like, if there's anybody that is worth it, it's him. But, like, one player, now guess what? You're paying all this money to a guy who's not playing. Like, to invest
no, the worst is the NBA. The contracts are so out of control. I got, this guy you never heard of is going to be making $250 million over 3 years, 4 years.
Well, the NBA took a page out of the MLB handbook, like with their contracts, because if you remember, up until probably 5-6 years ago, these players weren't making nearly as much. Like you get the LeBron Jameses that make a lot of money, but regular guys like Mike Conley got like $150 million, didn't he? Like something ridiculous like that. Like he
was the highest paid player in the league at one point.
Yeah, like listen, he's a good player, but he's not worthy of that. Like, and then that's reminiscent to me of in similar fashion. Like, remember when the Mariners signed Kyle Seager to a 5-year, $100 million deal? Kyle Seager from the Mariners, who was nothing more than slightly above average at one time. And they're paying him 20 mil a year. You know what I'm saying? It's ridiculous to me. But I just think the money's too ridiculous. I think there's got to be a salary cap at some point. These guys are, I don't want to say they're making too much, but I don't think anybody's worth it. I don't think anybody's worth all that money.
Yeah, it depends how much you value a World Series. The Dodgers paid Betts huge. He was under contract for last year, but they won a World Series, so they view it as a win. The Nationals, they spent a ton of money on Scherzer. They extended Strasburg. They won a World Series, but now both of these guys are injured, and they're in last place. So it's really what's the price you want to pay? What are you willing to pay in the short term to win a World Series, and how do you care if that's going to impact you in the long term? Because there's no way in 13 years, when Francisco Lindor is almost 40, that he's going to be able to play shortstop at a high level. He's already breaking down now in his late 20s. So these big-time contracts, they're not great, and I think they should maybe make a limit to contract lengths.
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with Frankie Lindor's breaking down. I think he's just having a tough time adjusting. I mean, he's not breaking down. He's
in decline the last 2 seasons, 3 seasons.
What 2 seasons? First, bro, you can't count last year.
All right, so go back to look at his 2018 versus 2019 numbers. His drop off.
Yeah, because 2018 and 2019. Let's see. I mean, dude, he was a 30-plus home run hitter 3 straight years, 17, 18, and 19. I mean, batting average 2019 was 284, 74 RBIs because he probably hit at the top of the lineup most of the time. I mean, scored over 100 runs. I mean, it's plus playing great defense and being a great base runner. It's kind of hard for me to say that. He's a guy that's –
do you think those 2019 numbers are worth being the second highest played player in history of baseball?
No, of course not, bro. I don't even think Trout's numbers are worth him making as much as he does. I just don't. I'm not a believer in that, and I think it's ridiculous. And I think a lot of times guys change. Guys made their money. They don't. You know what I'm saying? If you're Frankie Lindor, at the end of the day, I'm not questioning his integrity or his motivation, but some people in Frankie Lindor's position, they make $350 million. You're getting this money. You're just going to go out and play baseball. You don't care. You're 28 years old. You're worth $350 million now.
Look what happened with Chris Davis on the Orioles.
Yeah.
He got all this money and he could not hit anymore.
Yeah. A guy like Jason Hayward, a guy like Chris Davis, all these guys who are flat out.
Jason Hayward was the stupidest contract the Cubs ever.
He's a modern day Bernie Madoff, just a flat out swindler. The guy just swindled big contracts from the Cardinals and the Cubs, the Braves. For what? The guy I think he hit 20 something home runs once in his career. He's such a bust. It's not even funny. He's currently batting I think 170 this season for the Cubs. It doesn't make any sense to me. But speaking of the Cubs, they're in New York tonight, and who are they against, Nick?
The MVP, Jacob deGrom.
Here we go. Jacob deGrom, is he the MVP of the NL?
I mean, if the Mets are going to run away with the NL East, and they don't have all their pitchers, and they've had all these injuries, how do you deny? I mean, he's going to win the Silver Slugger. So if you win the Silver Slugger, you know he's going to win the Cy Young. It's two pretty good things right there. He's batting .400, 6-2. He's actually getting some run support this season, mostly from him though. 0.56 ERA, 103 Ks. Batting average against is 121. He's allowed 4 runs. I saw the MLB posted a picture of him before. This idiot on Twitter, I want to give him a shout out. His name is @Kevin Albright. He says he put DeGrom third in the MVP voting behind Zach Wheeler and Acuna. Zach Wheeler is the MVP? What? And his reasoning for this was Wheeler is a workhorse and DeGrom rarely pitches more than 6 innings. John, do you think DeGrom wants to only go out there for 6 innings? I don't think there's any shot that he wants to come out of these games. And that's why, a good play for tonight is not to bet on DeGrom. You got to lay off DeGrom here, I think, because 9.5, you think, oh, that's an easy strikeout number for him. But if he's got 9 strikeouts through 5 innings, that means he threw like 80 pitches. And I think Rojas is going to say, you're out of here. We're taking you out of the game.
Well, listen, Zach Wheeler's had a great season so far.
Absolutely.
Can't deny it. He's looked great. He's honestly surprising because I never really thought he was that good. I thought he had a pretty good season on the Mets and he wasn't that good, but he's shown otherwise this year. Now listen, you know how I feel. The pitchers have an award. The pitchers have the Cy Young. Is DeGrom the clear favorite for the NL Cy Young right now? Yeah, I'd say so. Sure. But dude, the MVP is pretty much a position player award. That's like trying to tell me that Aaron Donald's going to win MVP one year. Like, as great as he is, it's not happening. That's why they have Defensive Player of the Year. Now, like I've said this many times, the only way I could see DeGrom win MVP is if the Mets make the playoffs, DeGrom has his typical season, and all these position players like Tatis, Chris Bryant, Ronald Acuna just are flat out not doing much. But, like, that's not even the case. Like, honestly,
Tatis has been amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing with Tatis and even Acuna right now that you could probably put a knock on offensively is their batting averages aren't that great. Like, you'd like to see him be at least 300 at this point.
The thing with Acuna is that the Braves would have to win a division, I think.
I don't think so, man. If you get
to get over Tatis, I think.
All right, I'm not talking about to get over Tatis. I'm talking about over DeGrom. I'm saying
there's no way that I could. Unless Acuna hits 60 home runs. I mean, if DeGrom has an ERA at the end of the season under 1, that means he has a historic season. So
he's going to get votes. I mean, listen. First of all, that's a big if one. Like, it takes is one start for him to go 6 innings, give up 3 runs, and that's not even a bad start. It's a quality start. But that's all it takes for his ERA to blow up. That's it. That's a big if. That's a huge feat if he does under 1. Like, I agree, he deserves serious consideration. But I wouldn't give it to him if he does that, and let's say Acuna comes out here, bats .290 with 35, 40 home runs, 25, 30 stolen bases. I mean, he'll only probably get like 80, 85 RBIs because they bat him leadoff and like 100 runs. And, it's going to be hard for me to say a guy like Acuna is not getting it. Or like if Tatis comes out here, goes 30-30 and bats 280, 285. Like, it's going to be hard for me to say, no, these guys aren't getting it. Like, I'm a firm believer the MVP should be a position player unless the position players have done nothing special and a certain pitcher, i.e. a DeGrom, have been head and shoulders above everybody else, even as a pitcher. Like, I'm not discounting
when they're – I get your point, and it goes with the NFL too, where it's MVP is usually an offensive award, but sometimes you got to make exceptions. There's been pitchers before who have won MVP, and you can't say that they'd have better seasons than DeGrom. And in the NFL, there's been a kicker who's won MVP, and Lawrence Taylor won MVP. So sometimes, if it's the most historic season ever, you gotta consider it.
Dude, he won MVP in like 86. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, yes, is it possible? Ever. Is it possible? Sure, it's possible. Like, he's definitely earning the consideration right now.
So where would you put DeGrom in your MVP voting? 4?
Right
5?
Now, I'd probably put him 3 or 4.
Okay.
I'd put him 3 or 4. Chris Bryant, if
Bryant's
Chris
having
Bryant,
a good year, he might not
is.
stay in the NL though.
He might not. That's another consideration. I don't really know.
I'd put Bryant over Acuna.
All I'm saying, all I'm saying is I probably put DeGrom fourth. Like Acuna, Tatis, Bryant. Listen, I didn't look into it long enough because I don't really care because it's not even All-Star break. But I would probably say right now those guys are top three. It's too early, dude. But I don't know. I'd put him fourth.
Who are you putting second in Cy Young right now? Zach Wheeler
For the NL?
Yeah. How about Marcus Stroman? He's been a top 5 pitcher, and you got Taijuan Walker as a top 5 pitcher too, which is crazy.
Listen, he has been.
I would go. I think Zach Wheeler has been tremendous.
No, absolutely, dude. Zach Wheeler's been tremendous. I mean, you could make
Stroman is gonna get paid big time this offseason.
Stroman's gonna what?
Get paid big time. He's a free agent.
Yeah, I mean, listen, yeah, he's gonna. I mean, another guy you could have made a case for before he got hurt is Jack Flaherty. 8-1 with a 2.9 ERA, 67 Ks through 62 innings, and he's probably missed a good 3 or 4 starts to this point. He's a guy I would keep an eye on, but I mean, you can't discount Brandon Woodruff, Corbin Burns. I mean, Kevin Gausman's been pretty good. Trevor Rogers in Miami. There's a lot of guys you could consider. Zach Wheeler is definitely one of them. But, listen, it's too early to even talk about who's second in voting for Cy Young. Like, once we get past All-Star break, then we can start diving into it a little bit more. But I think
the only thing we could say on DeGrom is that the only thing that's going to make him not be the Cy Young is going to be if he gets hurt again.
Yeah, definitely. That's a big factor. So flipping it over to the crosstown rival New York Yankees. Time to panic. 8 games back this year in the AL East so far.
I mean, it's getting there. I know a lot of Yankee fans are panicking. To me, as a non-Yankee fan, I think they're still in a good position. Cashman's going to make a trade. I don't believe in this Red Sox team that they're going to be making the playoffs here. I got to see, do the Angels get Mike Trout back anytime soon? Because then I would say the Angels are better than the Yankees. We know the Astros and the A's are going to be in the playoffs. The Rays are making the playoffs. So the White Sox are making the playoffs. So it really is going to come down to the Blue Jays, the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Angels, and the Indians to see who's going to make that wild card spot. I think it's still open there for the most part. They are over 500. Let me see them below 500 first before I would jump in on the Warrior train here. Kluber, he was a good signing. Tyon, he was a bad trade at this point. The Yankees are going to go get a pitcher, but a lot of teams need a pitcher, so it's going to be a tough market. All tons of the prospects. I could definitely see Yankees trying to get Max Scherzer because I'm pretty sure the Nationals will trade him to the AL. They wouldn't trade him to the Mets, although you put Scherzer on the Mets rotation for the playoffs. I mean, that'd be really scary stuff right there. And they've made trades before. And offensively, there's nothing new with this team. Stanton, they baby him. They won't let him play 2 days in a row. He gets hurt then because he's not playing. Judge is always hurt. Voigt's hurt. These guys are going to be hurt. Sanchez actually sucks, so you should probably worry about him. He's a horrible catcher. And nobody wants to pitch to him. So if you got a big game, you're going to have Garrett Cole on the mound. You're not going to have Sanchez in there anyway, so forget about him. But Judge will get hurt again. Stanton's going to get hurt again. Voigt's coming back, but then these guys will, as usual, rest up. They'll get there in October. I think the Yankees can get to the wild card game, but I don't think they're going to win the game. They're not going to beat the Astros or the A's. So, I think they're going to be out of luck as far as actually trying to compete for a championship this year. But I do think they could get to the wild card game as the second wild card.
Well, like I said, it's very early. Now, they got a boost because Glasnow goes down, and he's going to be out for at least a while. That's a big one. Even though they're going to try and fill him, it's still hard to get that kind of production. Like, that's a guy you go out there, he's probably good for 6-7 innings, 2 runs or less, 8+ Ks. But I think with the Yankees, the most important thing is keeping your composure because, like I said, it's still very early. Now, the key factor to me is can the Yankees cut that division lead to 3 games or less by All-Star break? They have about 3 weeks or so to do that, maybe a month. And I think if they can do that, cut into that lead a little bit. Like you said, I don't believe in the Red Sox. The Red Sox have had so many comfort behind wins this year. That's not sustainable. Like, it's just not. I don't believe in them. Like, I like their offense. Their pitching to me is sus. Like, Nady Eovaldi's been solid this year. The Blue Jays aren't there yet with their pitching. And now the Rays just lost one of the best pitchers in baseball. Like, I just don't know what the Yankees are waiting for. Like, I think the problem is Aaron Boone is too analytical. He's just him and Cashman.
Yep.
They're not putting the best players out there. They're putting like, oh, well, you know what? He's projected to do this. Like analytically, he's this. Like he thinks he's Brad Pitt in Moneyball. Like you're not, dude. Like stop.
I think they're going to get rid of Boone after this year. Unless
they got it. Listen,
how do you keep him?
If they don't at least
make the World Series.
At the bare minimum, I was just saying the bare minimum make the ALCS, and that's like generous. I think he's gone. Like he's got to me, at least make the World Series. But honestly, dude, they're not putting the best team out there. But there's reason to be hopeful if they can cut it to win within 3, maybe even 4 games for the All-Star break. You don't want to start letting this league get into double digits, though. You do not, because the AL East is too competitive and it's too good. And even a team like the Blue Jays who aren't viewed as a true competitor, they're still a threat to win 85 to 90 games.
Blue Jays got a great core. They're doing this without Springer. They're going to be really. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if next season they're competing for the AL East.
Listen, they make one big run at a pitcher, like you never know, man. Maybe they get like a Max Scherzer type for next year. If maybe somebody puts them on a half-season rental.
Blue Jays got money. That's people don't realize. They're owned by Rogers Media, which is that's basically NBC of Canada. So they got money up there. They're going to spend it. It's just a matter of convince people to come play in Canada. And this season, they convinced Springer to come play in Buffalo. So they got a young core there, which is good. And you're right. If they get a starting pitcher, a veteran like Scherzer, they signed Verlander. He's going to be a free agent. This team could be well on their way to being really good in the playoffs. And the Blue Jays, they didn't win a World Series recently, but every 4 or 5 years they recycle and they're in the ALCS. So they had Troy Tulowitzki and R.A. Dickey and having them in the ALCS years.
They had like 5-6 years ago, dude. They had like 4 30 home run hitters. Remember,
right.
They had
Encarnacion,
their peak. Encarnacion, Joey Bats, Tulowitzki, Josh Donaldson. They have 4 guys that can hit 30 home runs. That's unheard of. So you're right. They recycle every 5 years. So now these guys are even younger. So you got a Hyun-Jin Ryu who's a solid 2 pitcher. I think. I think right now Ryu's a 2. Now you put an ace in there, and then listen. If Matz keeps up his production, Robbie Ray has been a revelation. Arizona Diamondbacks, they are crying to see how successful he's been. His walks are down astronomically. Like it's ridiculous. Like Robbie Ray was either a walk or a strikeout. That's it. He's a great strikeout pitcher. I used to equate him to the NL version of Chris Archer. But now, dude, like he's figured it out. So if he's like your 4 starter, you're in pretty good shape. But speaking of Toronto, I know we talk about it every week, but God damn it, this kid is good. Vladdy Jr., scorching hot. He stays that way. He's batting .345, good for 2nd in the league. Every single stat you see below, home runs, RBIs, OPS, he is leading not only the American League, but the MLB. The only guy ahead of him right now in average in the MLB is one of my other favorite players, Nick Castellanos. So, dude, listen, I know we've been talking about this. You think like Ohtani was MVP, but this guy's about to win the Triple Crown. So is it even a contest at this point anymore?
Like you said, it's too early to talk about MVP. We're talking DeGrom here. The thing that's most surprising to me about Guerrero that I did not see coming is his batting average. I never thought he was going to be this guy that's batting, 340. I knew the power was there. I knew the RBIs were there. I think it's, Guerrero better be careful at this All-Star game, though, with the home run derby.
I wouldn't even do it if I was him.
No, him and Ohtani should not do the home run derby. I mean, as fans, we want it, but they should not do it. Listen, he's been great. Hopefully he can lead the Blue Jays to the playoffs. And, if he wins the Triple Crown, that'd be very exciting. It's only been done once in the past, 30, 40 years.
Miguel Cabrera. Like, dude, it's so crazy to think about. If he heats up even a little bit more, dude, Vladdy could realistically have 30 home runs and 70 RBIs by the All-Star break. Like, do you understand how crazy that is? Now, counter in natural regression, because you're not going to keep up that pace because it's just so difficult to. But if he had 30 home runs and 70 RBIs by the All-Star break, dude, he could very well finish with like 50 home runs and 135 RBIs, 130 RBIs, with maybe a 330 plus batting average. I mean, are you kidding me? Like, are you serious? That's ridiculous. Dude, like, it's funny because you weren't on this week or that week. We had a great guest, good friend of the show, Andrew Cayley from Covers, and he's a big Blue Jays fan. And we were talking about Vladdy because this is right when Vladdy was starting to separate himself from Ohtani, and he loves Ohtani as well. But I was like, listen, I think Vladdy's being oversold. And by the way, not for nothing, in the beginning of the season, before the season started, when I put out my award picks, Mike Trout was my AL MVP pick, but I put out my value pick as Vladdy Jr. I was like, listen, this kid's unbelievable. At plus 3,500? What are you serious?
Hopefully you bet on him.
If only I took my own advice. I didn't. I know, right? I know. But in any case, he was saying, like, the thing about Vladdy is this kid, he doesn't have just one swing. Like, when the ball comes off his bat, the sound is different if you ever watched him in person. But he said he doesn't have just one swing. He's got multiple swings. He's got his 2-strike swing. He's got, hey, I'm going to hit this ball to right field. I'm going to hit this one to right center. I'm going to hit this one 450 over the left center wall. Like, he's got different swings. I guess it's just like the different planes that he keeps the bat on. But, like, the kid is so special. It's not just the bat speed and the hips, but, like, it's the hand-eye coordination. The kid is special, man. Like, and just because his father was a legend, that doesn't mean that the lineage always gets passed down like that. It just doesn't always happen.
Look at Michael Jordan Jr.
Yeah, man. Like, it's a joy watching Vlad. Considering the fact that we grew up watching Vladimir Guerrero Sr., it's a true treat to watch his son not only be in the MLB, but I mean
how great was that? Shot over the Green Monster the other night to tie the gap in the night.
Well, it's funny because that was the thing that put him over my bet. I bet him at over 1.5 total bases at even money.
There it is, 4 bases right there.
One swing of the bat. And listen, that was against Matt Barnes. Matt Barnes has been almost automatic this season. So interesting, but we're just talking about bets. As we're wrapping up the show, let's get after it. Gambling Guinea's best betting trends of the day. First off, today we had the A's money line minus 121. That game is currently going on. Athletics are down. Hopefully they can find a way to come back. Next, we got the San Francisco Giants run line minus 1.5 plus 1.5. Nick, would you believe it if I told you the Arizona Diamondbacks are 9-28 on the road this year on a 12-game losing streak, while their starting pitcher has got a ERA over 6 on the road this season? Plus 160 or plus 123. That value is too good to pass up. The Giants are hot. They're the second best team in baseball right now. They're the best team in the NL.
Do you think the Giants are for real? Maybe we can talk about this next week. But you think they're here to stay?
No, I don't. I think they're going to fade eventually. They're good, and our boy Kevin Davis was talking about this last week from the Action Network, and he was saying they're built of. I don't know. Remember what the Woody was talking about? He's like, they're built of that. It's not like really sturdy. It's just kind of like a facade. But last but not least, I did the math on this. I did the research on this. Dating back to the start of 2020, and Jacob deGrom's got 22 starts heading into tonight. In those 22 starts, he is 17-5 when it comes to having the first inning be scoreless. Not saying only he pitches the first inning scoreless, but his team has a scoreless first inning. Meaning it's 0-0 after 1 inning when deGrom is on the mound. Yeah. That is 17-5. He's 9-1 this season across 10 starts in doing that.
Right. I mean, you got Lindor at the top of the lineup, so it's usually an out. Donald Smith gets an out, and deGrom's going to get everybody out. So it's a great bet.
Exactly. Minus 148. The value is not bad. Like, listen, it seems like a lot, but I've seen many a times where this value is in the 160s, 170s. Against the Cubs, I think DeGrom's going to come out, have a good first inning. It's a quick and sweaty bet, but, man, I love it. And speaking of the Mets, we have our Emerge Player of the Night brought to you by our friends at Emerge Sports Group, our boy J-Hen. Nick, who we got?
John, this is it's exciting. I think a lot of people in the league forgot about this guy. But Pete Alonso, the polar bear, comes off the injured list. 15 RBIs in 14 games, 17 hits with 4 home runs. And, most importantly there, the Mets have 11 wins in those games. So Alonso comes back, immediate impact in the lineup, and the Mets offense kind of has taken off with him there. Dallas Smith's played better as of late because he's batting in front of Alonso. Saturday, I was at the game. We had our buddy Frank Fleming, Frank the Tank, big fan of the show. He was there. Lindor hits a home run in the first inning, and maybe because Alonso's hitting behind him, they decided, all right, we'll pitch better to Lindor here, who's having a dreadful season. So Alonso's making a difference right now.
Is Frank the Tank going to come on the show or what?
Frank the Tank might be on the show. I don't want to promise anything. We're also going to potentially get Vladimir Jr.'s good friend Eli Fishman on in a few weeks. So we'll see what happens. But Alonso, huge for the clubhouse. They love this guy in the clubhouse. He's holding the team together right now. And DeGrom is the captain of the team. He's earned that. But Alonso is also one of the faces of the franchise, and he's the guy that's willing to talk to the media. And they were going through a rough stretch. He was out there talking. Last year, everyone said he was horrible. He was still on pace for 40 home runs last year. He had 16 home runs, which led the Mets, and 35 RBIs, which led the Mets in 57 games, which is not terrible. This year, 50 games, 10 home runs, 34 RBIs. So, look, small sample size here. Basically, 7 more games last year. He had more home runs, and everyone said he's having a horrible season this year. He's got virtually the same stats everyone's saying. He's great. Batting average around 260, which is where you expect him to be. So overall, I think you could project him out here to finish the season strong. He'll have 40-something home runs, close to 100 RBIs. And listen, Alonso, they needed him big time because McNeil's out, Conforto's out, Nimmo's out, JD Davis is out. That's 4 starters for the Mets are out. And he's carrying them right now. He's leading the way. Conforto, McNeil coming back soon. But I think Alonso is ready to take off here and keep it going here. And I think he's going to have a big season.
Absolutely, man. He's the catalyst to this New York Mets offense. He's the catalyst to the team outside of Jacob deGrom. So he's the type of player that not only leads by example on field, but in the clubhouse as well. So he's a pivotal member of this team. And if the Mets want to have the type of success that they were projecting and were hoping for this year, he's got to be a big part of that. So that being said, give me some final thoughts here. What are you thinking?
I'm wondering, all your go-to bet guys, they're out on the injury list. So it's really all DeGrom right now, right? He's your go-to guy. Burns has kind of cooled off a bit. Who could we keep an eye on here to win some easy money with other than DeGrom moving forward here?
So I would say probably right now, obviously it's all about transitions. 3 of my top guys just went on the shelf. DeGrom is the big one right now. I'm cautious, like you said, about his strikeouts until I see that he's reliably going to go in the 6th, 7th inning. Rojas doesn't have him on a 70 pitch count.
Right.
But I would probably
five scoreless from DeGrom tonight. If the Mets are up 3, I think they're going to pull him.
Yeah, why not? Like, listen, bro, like you obviously want to win the game, but you're less concerned about the game than having Jacob deGrom suffer a relapse or possibly an actual bad injury.
And you want DeGrom, you think you're World Series if you're the Mets.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
You got to be thinking you got to need DeGrom then.
I picked the futures on him. But I would say Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff are still strong guys to back. At the end of the day, man, Hugh Darvish is starting to kind of pick it up a little bit. Lance Lynn is the best guy, and I've written an article about this last 2 weeks. He is not only on the best first 5 team in baseball. They won another one by today, and the Rays managed to come back, and it's 7-7 through 10 in the 10th inning right now. That aside, Lance Lynn, before his somewhat rough start on his first 5 against the Rays on Monday night against Tyler Glasnow, he was coming in there. He was undefeated. He was 9-0-2 in his first 5. ERA 1 or sub 1. So that's the guy that you always got to constantly back. But Garrett Cole, like I said, I'm still wait and see on him. He's been brutal. Like tonight, I have a feeling tonight, who knows, man, he could come out there, go 6 innings, give up 4 runs, and have a rough outing against a tough Blue Jays lineup. I don't like picking strikeout overs against the Blue Jays lineup for the most part because their lineup is deadly. But I would say it's limited right now. And of course, keep an eye on is Trevor Bauer as well.
What do you think about Matt Olson? 18 home runs, 48 RBIs, batting .300, OPS just a little under 1,000. This guy's been nobody's talking about him because he's playing for Oakland, but this guy's one of the best first basemen in the league.
Yeah, man. You know what's funny about Matt Olson? Because I had him on my fantasy team probably like 2015, 2016. Always knew the guy had power, and like he was trying to tie it in with his average, and something about him early on. Like he had home runs, but if you watched him play throughout the season, just the way he just produced, it wasn't steady, it wasn't clean. Like when you look at the body of work, that's why I believe numbers lie. When you look at the body of work at the end of the season, you'd be like, oh wow, like, it's a pretty solid season. But like there would just be too many times where he just wasn't producing. He'd be in slumps too often. But he's really improved the last few years. Now he's gotten more steady. He's become a pivotal part of that lineup. This is what Oakland was hoping to get when they got Matt Olson. Now he's playing good defense. He's been a clutch hitter. He's been their most reliable offensive asset. It's great, man. Nobody's talking about him, but I unfortunately think that he's playing in the AL. There's not even a soul right now close to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Right. So, and unfortunately for him, he plays the same position as Vlad at first base, so he wouldn't even get like a Silver Slugger recognition for that position either. But
he might win the Gold Glove though. He's a very good defenseman.
Maybe he might.
Another guy that we should talk about real quick is because I don't know if he's going to keep it up, but right now he's 7-1, 1.43 ERA, 97 strikeouts, 0.70 WHIP, and that is Kevin Gossman of the San Francisco Giants.
Yeah, man, no doubt. He's been a huge asset for San Francisco. He's been a big reason why they've been so successful. He's been an asset and an anchor at the top of that rotation for the Giants to rely upon. He's kind of in a renaissance year, if you will. Like he's never really produced, at least to this point, to this statistical output. But he's been very good, and he's been somebody that the Giants have called upon time and time again, and he's just delivered every single time. Now it remains to be seen if he can keep it up. My final thought real quick, MLB, stop trying to change so much. Let these guys play. If you want to make these drastic changes, wait until the season is over. Stop changing something that's not broke. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I can't stand when leagues do this. But for me and Nick, appreciate you tuning into JohnnyVTV Live. Follow us on Twitter. Sometimes you might be watching me on Twitter at _JohnnyVTV. He's at Nick_Durst. On Instagram, I'm at Gambling Guinea. He's at Nick's Food and Stuff, and Kyle's at the Kyle Donnelly. Everybody, it's been a pleasure. Nick, thank you very much, brother. Talk to you soon.
Let's go Mets.
Ciao.